it is an open question. And I would like to ask that when we say practice or study scripture or anything, sometimes we tend to become radical and fanatic. So where is the weakness in us as a human being, and how can we recognize it, that instead of becoming a radical or fanatic, we are actually enlightening ourselves or on the path of learning things?
I would suggest first follow the instructions of your guru. That's usually where the fault is you're not really following the instructions of your guru very carefully. If then you also have to examine your own mind. Why am I taking this? Am I seeing others as so radically different from me? Do I try to see them as my own? Do I see them as my own kith and kin? Do I see everybody who disagrees with me dear? I think we have to really examine our own reactions and watch and examine our own mind.
Thank you. As Swami Yogamananda always used to say, you got to have a GPS, Guru Positioning System, in order for us to be able to move forward. So, thank you.
Good morning. My name is Sudhir. I'm sorry I'm asking a question on the second day, but my question pertains to the way you go in for prayer into the temple. Vivekananda is said to have, when he went to the Kali temple, he forgot his needs and he just prayed. On the other hand, when you look at some of the Alvar saints, the one I recall is when he went in and had demanded jewelry actually for his second wife. So what should I do? I don't have a second wife. So. But I'm just trying to figure out which is the way. Does God already know when I go in the temple what I need, or do I need to bring it out?
Yes, of course God knows whatever is in everybody's mind, and therefore we don't need to ask for anything. But as per human nature, one asks either orally or mentally for that one craves for. One gentleman was having a kind of fight with me as to what is the need of prayer. God knows everything in our heart, no need for prayer. Not only that, he was insisting that in the Vedanta society, stop all prayers. And I knew one incident in his life when he and his wife were trapped in an earthquake situation and they had no way to come out. I asked, at that time, did you not pray? And his face immediately confessed that he prayed at that time. So whatever we really want, that want itself mentally, we are asking for it. Whether we verbalize it or not, that is no question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hello. Yeah, I'm Urban. It's an open question that is it possible to synthesize all school of Vedanta into single unifying statement about who God is?
Dang, this is what I want to be mansplained. Diplomacy.
We have addressed this issue yesterday also, today also. Many of you have talked about it's not about Dvaita or Advaita or Visishta Advaita. It's the relationship that you have as you move forward and you're comfortable with. That's the path we need to go forward with.
Actually, the microphone was passed on to Brajapranaji because the answer to your question was given by her. Practice, 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 and that will reconcile all the systems in your heart.
And practice opening as many doors as possible. Thank you, Urban.
Why Shankaracharya wrote Bhaja Govinda being an Advaita Guru? Isn't that like Vishishta Advaita? He wrote like lots of
Well, Shankaracharya was not, because that term was not there when he was preaching Vishishtadvaita. In fact, one of his very well-known hymns, Vishnu Shatpadi, he mentions that whether you say Tamevaham or Tavevaham, means whether I am one with thyself or whether I belong to you, it doesn't make much difference at all. And as to the spiritual practices are concerned, you will see all the acharyas have given almost same spiritual practices, only the end point described by them is different, but when you get there, the question doesn't remain at all. So therefore, one need not worry about it at that point. When I had asked this question to one of my teachers, that what happens at the end, and he said, don't worry about it right now.
All right, thank you. Now we have the gentleman who used the drone to film us. I guess he's got a question from up there. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. And this is again, like drone, this is a technical question. So my question is to Swami Yogatmananda ji, and in case you don't like my question, we can blame it on Ishtar ji. So my question is, Swami, I've been reflecting on how Maya is seen differently in Advaita and Vishishta Advaita. In Advaita, it's considered as illusion, but Vishishta Advaita treats it as real as God's own Prakriti. This makes Vishishta Advaita feel more real and practical to me. Could you please help me understand the deeper meaning of Maya in Vishishta Advaita and how it influences our spiritual practice?
Yes, again, it is matter of how you experience it. Not that one is right and another is wrong. The understanding of Maya in non-dual Vedanta also pertains to Shakti, which is neither real nor real. Sannapya, sannapya, ubhayatmikano. This is from Shankaracharya's Vivek Chudamani. So it is, you cannot say it doesn't exist, and you cannot say it exists. So like that. And Prakriti, the word that as Ramanujacharya uses, the variety and the unity, both are real. So Prakriti is real, the Purusha is real, not like Sankhya, but it is like Prakriti and Purush, they together are there in this universe. One is not to be separated from other. The variety is connected with the unity. That is how Ramanuja describes it. There is not much of a contradiction in them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hari Om. I have one observation, one question. I'll state my question first. In Sri Bhashya, Ramanujacharya rebuttals Shunyavad and then goes on to Shankaracharya names Shankaracharya as Shankaracharya practice is similar to Shunyavad and then call the teaching as Prachanna Shunyavad, the crypto Buddhist. So could you please put that in proper context or so I don't misunderstand? And the observation is for Yogatmananda Swamiji about your story that you were given the topic that you're not a student of. It reminded me of the Chandogya Upanishad's story about the Prajapati tells Asura, Daya, then Devas, Daman, and Manushya, Dan.
Well, there is really not, the question is very good, but there is not much to really explain about it. It is that I think our Sarvapriyananda will be able to give the proper answer. Would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, I am not really aware of that portion of the Sri Bhashya. Maybe Tattvamanji can talk more about that portion. But you're right. In the famous, the beginning of the Sri Bhashya, where Ramanuja Acharya sums up the Advaita position, and I've heard Rivya Tattvamanji saying that he does it like a gentleman. He does a fairly good job of it, and not misrepresents Advaita Vedanta. And there, in part of that, which he calls the Mahapurva Paksha, the great opponent, the Advaita Vedanta, a part of that refutation is the sevenfold attack on Maya, on the Advaitic conception of Maya, that Saptavidanupavatti, the seven untenables in Maya. Things like, just as Maharaj mentioned, that Maya is neither ultimately real nor unreal. How can that be? It has to be either one of the two. So Swarupanupavatti. Where is Maya? Is Maya in Brahman? Is Maya is Avidya in the Jiva? Both answers have very serious logical problems. And so on. How can something like Maya make Brahman disappear? So these are 7 kinds of objections, great objections against the Advaitic formulation of Maya, which is crucial. It's an attack on what Ramanuja and later Vishishtatvaitis and Dvaitins, they perceived as a weak link in Advaita Vedanta. One book I would recommend if you want to know what are these objections in English, lucidly explained in English. What are the objections and what were the Advaitic replies over the centuries to these powerful attacks. There's 7 great untenables by John Grimes, that book. But that portion where you are saying where Ramanuja refutes Shunyavada, and there he says Shankara is a Shunyavadi, and he calls Shankara Prachanna Bauddha. I've heard the term, but that portion I have not read. Maybe Maharaj can say it. Chapter 2.
It's on.
Swami Sarvapriyanji is referring to the Mahapurvapaksha. Ramanuja himself did not organize it as a Mahapurvapaksha. It was Sudarsana Suri in his Sutta Prakashika, his commentary on Sri Bhashya, who organized this Saptavida Anubhavati. And again, in Madhusudana Saraswati in Advaita Siddhi, he defends the 5 definitions of Mithyatva. So in just a few words, I won't take much time. So in Saptavida Anubhavati, 7 antenables, Asya Anubhavati, Tirodhana, Nivartaga, Nivritya, Anivachaniya, and so on, all 7 antenables. Now, Ramanuja's main problem was that he misinterpreted Avidya or Maya as Asat. They are totally different things. Maya was used by Shankaracharya to explain Vyavaharika. And Shankaracharya says, Asat has nothing to do with philosophy. Asat by itself is non-existent. Vantya Putra. If it is Vantya, no Putra. If it is Putra, no Vantya. So one cancels the other. This is Asat, absolute non-existence. Ramanuja's problem was that he interprets Maya or Mithya as Asat. On the other hand, there are 5 definitions of Mithyatvam. One is in Panchapadika by Padmabhaja, Panchapadika Vivarana by Prakasatmayati, and then Chitsuki, Tattva Pradipika by Chitsukacharya, and then Ananda Bodha Nyaya Deepavali. If for those who are a little entertainment, Sarasatta Anadhikaranatumva Mithyatvam Panchapadika. Then Pratibandha Bhadu Traikarika Nisheda Prayogitamva Mithyatvam by Panchapadika Vivarana by Prakasatmayati. Jnana Nivartyatvam Mithyatvam again Prakasatmayati Vivarana. And then Swasre Nishtha Atyata Bhava Prayogitam Mithyatvam Chitsuki Tattva Pradipika Chitsukacharya. And the last one is Ananda Bodha's Nyaya Deepavali Sat Viviktatva Mithyatvam. Now the point is, one great scholar who is the author of Shada Bhushan, is referred to, that is Mahamahavadeya Ananda Krishna Shastri. I had the privilege and blessing to be coming from all of the same place. Now, he wrote this, he lived only in
20th century, those Mukherjee brought him to Calcutta University, who revitalized Calcutta Sanskrit series, Mahabhagavadi and Krishna Shastri. So the point is, all these Saptavida Bhagavati are being answered by all the 5 authors, Panchapadya, then Vivaranagara, and then Anandabodha and Chitsugi. The point is, Ramanuja mistakes Nagarjuna's Madhyamika philosophy, the Shunyavada, as some kind of a total negation. Nagarjuna only defines Shunyavada as a mystical experience when you find that nothing can be ultimately stated. That's why Nagarjuna definition, Anyway, that's a different subject. So, in Ramanuja, he says, Shankaracharya's concept of Mithyatvam reduces Advaita into a kind of nihilism, absolute non-existence. No, Shankaracharya accepts Vyavaharika Satta and Patibhasika Satta. And then what happens is Ramanuja directly takes Vyavaharika as Asat. It's a great injustice on Advaita. If you define Vyavaharika as Asat, it means he is not standing there. I am not sitting here. This conference is not going on. That's what it means. Shankaracharya was absolutely crazy to talk like that. So, anyway, that's an entirely different matter. So, Anadaksha Shastris, Sadabhushani, as like Mansuri Saraswati's Advaita Siddhi, in modern times, 20th century, Anadaksha Shastris, Sadabhushani has put a cap over the whole controversy. Thank you. Thank
you. We will have 2 last questions. Dharmaja, from your side, I know she's been standing there for a long time, so we'll entertain those 2 questions. Thank you.
So the Sharanagati defined by Krishna doesn't talk about grace. So how that is different from the grace defined in Ramanuja school? This is for Swami Kripamayananji. Also, Swamiji, when you are talking about the Saguna Brahman and all good qualities, how do we reconcile suffering and destruction in the world? And the other question to Swami Prasanatmananji is, one question. So the question about BAPS, the modern BAPS, which is post Ramanuja, which is roots to Ramanuja school, how do you consider that as reformation or renewal?
Actually, this Saranagati is surrender to God. So that comes out of grace. Whenever Sri Krishna says about perform Sharanagati or Prapatti, one cannot do that Sharanagati, practice that without the grace of God. That's what is the saying of Ramanuja. So when one has that Sharanagati is there, the grace has already come to the person. So that's how it can be related. About having that Ramanuja saying that it is God who is the sum total of everything, and He is all Parama Karunamaya, and why there is so much of suffering in the world. So, as all have said, this world is a mixture. It has not been created to be all justified and all good and all happy. The world is created with all mixture. It's a duality. It's all mixture of good and bad, suffering and health and illness. All are there. That's how the world is created. So you cannot blame anything. Don't expect world to be like heaven, where is the concept of there is no suffering, there is no old age, there is no death. World has been beset with death, disease, old age. All are there in the world. So there is no problem with that model of creation of the world. That's how the world is created. Jagat is that way. But again, Ramanuja says that your soul, you are really soul. You are not this jada sharira. You are soul, and in soul there is no suffering, no impurity, there is no imperfection. As soul, you are perfect as God Himself. You have the same quality as the Supreme Brahman or Supreme Being. So as soul, you don't have any defect, any suffering. So considering ourselves as the soul, and taking our body and situation as the part of Jada Jagat, so where there is a change. So that is what Ramanuja's view will be. Jiva, Jagat and Brahman and Purusha, the all Parama Purusha, Supreme Being, they all together make the Brahman. That's what the saying of Ramanuja is. So when we consider ourselves as Atma or as Jiva, then there is no soul, there is no suffering in that. So suffering in the created universe, in this Jada Jagat, in the body becoming old and there is death and the birth, those are part of the laws of nature created by God. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Ragini from New York. I struggle to relate to God personally, even though grace brought me to Vedanta. But can love for God take the form of deep care for human suffering and a yearning for truth? It seems like there may be an issue with that.
I think starting with compassion and deep love for human beings is an excellent place to start. The problem is you go into burnout very fast because we identify too strongly and we think that we know what's best. And maybe that person has to go through that experience of suffering. When I look back on my own life, it's some of the hardest things that ever happened to me that turned out to be the best things that happened to me. So a lot of the things that we can see in just a short period of time seem to be really terrible, but it might be exactly what that person needs. We're in no position to judge. What we can do is be there for them. Be there with love and compassion. But I think unless we have some sort of an inner resource, we will drain like a battery. And unless we have something here, we can't do anything out there. We absolutely have to be able to see that divinity within them and know that the same divinity is within our own hearts, and then work from there, because otherwise you'll just have two people down rather than one.
Thank you. I guess. Do you want to? Okay.
Namaste, this is for Swami Prasannatmanandaji. Swamiji, you mentioned Ubhay Vedanta, where Sanskrit and Tamil both were two devotional pathways, and then you talked about renewal and reformation. My question is about our present context. Here in the US, religion is often invoked in shaping public policy. Such debates sometimes, as Hindus living amongst other strong religious voices, how do we practice Vedanta in everyday life when we face such dilemmas, and how does it relate to the schism that you talked about, renewal and reformation? How can we align with those paths, and they're not our own?
Actually, what I have said, that this is regarding the religious tradition and religious school, this schism and reformation and renewal. But how one can practice religion in daily life, I think Sarvapriyananda will speak tomorrow on that regard.
Correct.
So I think he will speak.
He has taken that question and he'll make sure that he answers it. But anyway, so let's thank the panel.